Hello everyone, this is Warish, and today's video is the Final Fantasy XIV. It's the dungeon Castrum, Abania, and today I will be talking about commendations. I've read a little bit on the forums how some people are kind of mad that DD jobs don't really get a lot of accommodations after finishing dungeons or trials or whatever, and that mostly tanks and healers get them, even if they don't really do, I guess, too much. And if one of the other DD jobs is doing everything perfectly, doing all their rotations correctly, knowing when to AOE, not to stand in the bad markers or whatever, to not get hit, so the healers don't have to heal them as much. But then at the end, they don't really get any accommodations or anything. I kind of understand, I guess, why they are a little upset, but it's a little harder for people to really gauge how good of a DD is as opposed to a tank or a healer, especially on other trials or dungeons or whatever that have more than 4 people. Like if you're doing a 24, what is it, the raids, like the Crystal Tower or whatever, it's a lot harder to actually tell what's going on, like who's doing what, except for really the healers and the tanks, because if the tanks are doing bad, the bosses are running around or the ads are running around attacking everyone, so that the tanks aren't doing their job. As well as if the white mage, if people start dying all over the place, it could either be because the white mage isn't really healing much, or people are just getting hit by a lot of things and they're not able to heal them. So that one's also more because the other people aren't doing their job correctly. They're not standing in their safe spots or whatever. But you could tell if a healer is doing their job or not when there's big AOE and non-dodgeable AOE hits, and everyone is still, low on HP. So it's easier to tell if they're contributing or not. But in regular 4-man dungeons, it's pretty easy to tell if the tank and the healer are doing their job correctly or not. Like you could tell the tank if they're doing big pulls or small pulls or whatever, if they're facing the mobs or the boss, away from the party when needed to, and if they're dodging the AOE skills or not. It's easy to tell that. As well as for the healers, if they're giving everyone regen or whatever, Medica 2s, if they're having everyone their like buffs or whatever, and if they're also contributing in the damage wise, you can tell that pretty easily. So I understand kind of why people mostly give commendations to tanks and to healers, and it's a little harder for people to really notice if the DD is doing, I guess, a really good job or not. Because if there is one really great DD doing the job and the other one is doing really bad, well, you can't really tell who's who really, unless you really look at their kind of like their rotation. You kind of look at their character and see what they're doing. You can kind of go off of that, or off their like their HP or their TP or their MP or whatever. If you kind of see it fluctuate, you can actually tell a little bit if they're using the skills or whatnot, and as well as just visual effects, like if you see the black mage using just like blizzard moves or not. So you can tell how good or not they're doing, but it's a little harder to keep your eye on the person themselves all the time. I myself, if I am playing, I usually play my white mage, so I do tend to give it to the tank more often than not, because I can tell easier if he's using any defensive skills or not, if he's, you know, not pulling more than he can actually handle, you know, depending on the setup or not, and his gear, or their gear actually. You know, so I tend to give it to them more often. If I see one of the other DDs, like if it's a bard or it's a red mage or something, and they're giving me skills to help me out or anything, you know, I do sometimes give it to them as well if I see that they're doing a good job. But it's a little harder for me to tell if like a samurai or a monk or like a machinist or something, because I don't really play those jobs too much, so I don't know what really they do to contribute to the party other than just their damage. And I can't tell if the run is going faster or slower, you know, because the how long the dungeon actually takes. But it's harder to actually gauge. Like if I'm playing on my black mage and I'm doing a dungeon and I know that I'm doing well, and I see the other people, I see like the white mage or the healer and the tank not doing a very good job, and I know I'm doing a good job, and in the end I get no commendations. Yeah, I kind of am a little mad, saying, well, why didn't I get anything? I know I did, you know, my job correctly, and I know they messed up a little bit, or they made mistakes, you know, when I wouldn't have made them, you know, if I was playing on my white mage or whatever. But it's not really too bad or anything. You don't really get much with the actual commendations. I know you do get some mounts and a minion, I think, or something, and other little gear, but it's not really too important. As well as, you know, there is a lot of people playing DD jobs, you know, so the tanks and the healers, you know, are more scarce, so it's a little understandable that they do get the commendations more often than not. It's pretty much just how it is in online games. There's gonna be more people playing the attackers or whatever, as opposed to the more defensive supporting classes or jobs or whatever, and anything pretty much, because most people don't really like playing those types of jobs or having that type of responsibility for the rest of the group, or like whether it's healing them or trying to give them some kind of support or anything like that. But I've also seen another really great way to try and get commendations for yourself is to be, I guess, more talkative and helpful. You don't necessarily have to be helpful, but sometimes maybe if you're just try to be funny or try to get the other people to interact more. You know, some people don't even really say anything in the beginning. They don't say hello or hi or whatever, and in the end they just leave just like that without doing anything. You know, some people do try to, you know, say something at the end, like goodbye, and that it was a good run or whatever. So if you are a little more talkative, or you try to do some kind of joke or something, you might just get commendations just off of that, because it is pretty quiet usually whenever you play a dungeon. So I think people do also really give commendations for that. So you can, if you really want to try to get accommodations for, maybe you want the mount or whatever, you could try doing that. Or if there is a new person to the dungeon or the raid or whatever, if you can explain to them a little bit the boss, if they need to know anything real crucial, you know, that's another good way to get commendation. Also, even if you do really well on your job, whatever it is, whatever, you know, whatever role you're playing as, and if you're very helpful and or if you're making jokes or trying to get the other people to interact more. Sometimes you still, even if you do all that, you still won't get a commendation, because sometimes people just leave right away. You know, they don't really care about that. And they just, you know, once the dungeon is over, and if they don't leave any of the items that drop, you know, they just leave and that's it. So I really don't try to, I guess, don't let it really get you down too much that you didn't get, I guess, commendations when you feel you probably should have. You know, you just gotta go with it like that. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Until next time, take care.